Hola! So, we made it to 2021, but there still aren't many great card games out there to capture us. You've grown bored of Hearthstone and Magic, and well, Artifact died. I saw that firsthand as a primary content creator for the game, so what is next? The answer could be a game that we've been following the development of for years now. A game created by card game players, for card game players. RNG that will make you feel engaged, not enraged. A game that doesn't require you to click 50 times for a single action, but still gives you control. And a game that isn't just a battle for the sake of fighting. A cute injection of lore in a truly beautiful world to help you feel all fuzzy inside when you play. The answer could just be The Bazaar. Developed by Tempo Games and Reynad, the once Hearthstone pro turned org owner and now game developer. But what is this digital deck building game? The Bazaar has been in development for quite some time now, and if you remember it back from its Indiegogo days, you might be surprised to see the current version. The game has changed a lot, but I believe they are still delivering on their promise, to fill the card game void with a new type of card game to push us into this new decade. The game in its current state is played with items instead of cards per se, and with shops instead of decks, and an auto-battler style of combat so you can focus on the most fun aspect of any deck builder. Building your deck. The gameplay itself is split into two phases. The exploration phase, where both players build your arsenal of items, hero powers, and upgrades by visiting one of the many shops within the intergalactic Bazaar. The second phase is the combat phase, where you play off head-to-head with your opponent to see who had the best strategy for navigating the Bazaar. We'll go into both of these in a moment. But quickly before I do that, let me stress a very recent post from Reynad. As of the day of recording, this came out yesterday, the day before. We're in a sprint, trying to finish an important build by the end of February. It will have a bunch of more refined game systems that will look a lot closer to what the final product will be. That'll be the next big gameplay update. Should come out the first week of March. That might be another 1 to 2 hour video. In the meantime, we're recording shorter updates, and the first of those should be out in a week or two. So huge things are coming, and that's incredible. I look forward to seeing this close to final version of the game, and we're only a month or so away from getting the next 1 to 2 hour gameplay video. Until then, let's take a closer look at the Bazaar in early 2021. Now, most of this information comes either directly from the footage of a vertical slice, which was shown to us in October of last year, although we've pieced together information shared by developers since then as well. In the gameplay you will see only 2 characters were available, and while it was very polished, it will naturally get even more polished as we go into the final game. Not to mention much more content, including all of the playable classes we are yet to see in game, such as the lovable robot Dooley. In the exploration phase, we enter the Bazaar itself. Put most simply, we spend phases buying items to help us in combat from a variety of merchants. In this current build, we only see 4 options to visit, but in the final version there will be dozens. You select one of a few randomly generated merchants based on what type of thing you are looking to purchase. They present you with their wares, which will be different depending on your class, as each hero has a personality and style. From those choices, you purchase what you want with gold, adding items to your board, which we'll cover more in the combat explanation. You do this a total of 4 times, each visit to the Bazaar being shown 3 randomly generated merchants to trade with, and picking from their randomly selected class-specific wares, giving the Bazaar near endless replayability from this exploration phase alone. Currently, players choose from JJ, the item salesman, Forger, the weaponsmith, Nufu, the trainer, and what I can only assume is the bank for a bunch of gold. These merchants even have a chance to give you a special role. We saw this with Forger, the upgrading blacksmith in the vertical slice gameplay, but instead of giving you 4 options when you went to her stall, she only gave you 1 choice, but it was entirely free. There is also still the card size mechanic from a few iterations ago in the game. Currently, it adds a balancing element to the game, while as a player it challenges you to think spatially as well as numerically when it comes to item purchases. If they want to allow for a very strong item, they can do that by just making it take up more board space. So the player who buys it can have fewer items in total. I really want to feel like I'm in this sort of intergalactic bazaar, surrounded by all sorts of crazy characters. If they do this, they'll have me in love with the game, and I'm sure many of you folks too. The combat phase has evolved a lot since the beginning of development, from feeling more like having an entire hand of Hearthstone spells to an automatic directional combat akin to Artifact. It took many iterations for the team to realise they'd kind of been missing the point all along. There are fundamental reasons why these card games are starting to feel stale. Put most simply, the combat phase sees the items you have purchased attack the opposing hero over the course of 30 seconds, some items activating more often than others in an auto-battle style. Yes, that's right, the future of electronic card games is actually already here. What if the complexity of the game's strategy came from a phase which didn't involve 100 clicks to activate, but instead was more like chess, thinking 3 steps ahead and making a few distinct moves, then the rest of the game sort of plays out as if scripted. The team has received a lot of flack for moving to this auto-battle style of combat system, even if they have incorporated even more strategic depth in this exploration phase. But Ben, one of the developers, said this more perfectly than I could ever hope for in their Q&A update following this vertical slice gameplay.
We're not going to deny that there are a lot of things they've done well. If you want to innovate, you don't start from something way in the past, you start from whatever is current. And we think that the auto-battling games are the current leading strategy games. We think that their round system, where you buy and then fight, helps players focus on the more fun part of the game, which is building up your strategy and collecting stuff, rather than executing it.
So, having seen the light, and agreeing that this plan does work to bring the game into this current century, and not just make it another Magic the Gathering clone, what mechanically does the combat look like currently? Well, once you are done buying in the Bazaar, the combat clock is set to 30 seconds, and each of your items begin charging up their energy cost. Say you have a 5 energy cost weapon. After 5 seconds of combat, it will trigger, let's say dealing 2 damage to your enemy. Once it has dealt that damage, it will begin charging again. In another 5 seconds, it would fire, and so on until it's fired 6 times in the 30 seconds of fighting. The winner is whoever has the most health left after 30 seconds, or if someone defeats the enemy hero before then they're declared the winner. Then the exploration phase begins once again. You gain 15 gold at the start of your turn, and have 4 more opportunities to explore the Bazaar. In this version, this turn pattern would repeat until you had won 30 gems, gaining 1 for winning the first round, 2 for winning the second, and 3 for third, and so on. However, this is something they're going to be moving away from in the future. At the moment, a lot of the mechanics are a little broken in combat. It is certainly something they said that they're looking at. However, that being said, balance is not something they need to absolutely nail just yet. They're still developing the damn game. What they have developed now seems to be fun to play, and that is and has to be the primary goal right now, to make a fun, new strategy game influenced by our love of deck building games like Dominion. My key problems with the current system have all been answered in later Q&As and comments. The gem system for winning does definitely suck. They raised this themselves, Ben commenting on why these gems, which have no relevance to the rest of the game, suddenly appear and decide who wins. They want to work on that and develop a new victory condition. We just have to put our trust in them for now. But at least their priorities are in the right place. The gem system only really exists to combat snowballing at the moment. If you struggle to get moving or perhaps want to build towards a late game combo, you won't automatically lose the game, as the later rounds mean a lot more. The other issue is of course the animation issues in combat. Only one animation can play at a time, so despite the rope for combat running out pretty early, animations continue to play out. And as animations get delayed in this sort of animation queue, they begin charging again before they've even fired off. This is an issue they know of and are working towards a fix. They also mentioned perhaps some different animations in future, which I do think we need to take a look at. Otherwise 100 games into your Bazaar career, you'll have seen the same card dashing animation an awful lot of times. Naturally, Hearthstone suffers from a similar issue in combat, but at least they have spell effects and other abilities going off. I'd like to see a bit more of this sort of animation diversity in the game. All that being said, I'm already in love with the Bazaar. The pure concept of exploring an intergalactic Bazaar, meeting fantastical races and clashing with your rivals head on to show off your bartering prowess. It looks like it's really going to be an engaging part of this game. As many of you know, I ran the Artificers Guild channel, which covered the development of Artifact, Valve's card game based on the world of Dota 2. So, like many of you, I am craving that successful new card game, which develops on the ideas of which we love, and brings it into the modern era of gaming. And I personally really like the choice to look at auto battlers for combat, despite having been a card gamer for some time. If you actually think about all the decisions you need to make in the exploration phase, I think you'll be spending 90% of the combat phase just working out which merchants you need to see, which items you kind of need to look for, or buffs to deal with what your opponent will likely be doing. From concept to art, game system mechanics and more, the Bazaar is our beacon for hope for a new and engaging strategy game in 2021. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and maybe, just maybe, even subscribe. It really helps us out and tells me you want to see more of these videos. I have ideas, so many ideas, I just need your help to figure out what to do next. When you're done with that, YouTube thinks you might like the video on the left here. And I've put one on the right which you might like. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.